George the Tech.
Hey, everybody. What's up? Now that I've turned on my mic, it's the perfect time for my neighbor to fire up his Harley Davidson right outside my window. So you might get to hear that a little bit. How you doing, everybody? Thanks for joining me for our advanced Adobe Audition class. I get to go into more details, more specific features, a lot more under the hood to see deeper into what Adobe can do, because Adobe Audition is a lot of stuff, as you're probably aware. So we're going to cover a lot today. As usual, it's recorded. Questions are taken through the questions box, and you can put them in there anytime. Sometimes I might answer them real time. Other times I might wait to the end. It just depends on the nature of the questions, but I will keep an eye peeled on the questions box as much as that I can, especially because it's only 17 of you here signed up anyway. There's 12 so far. So it's not like a huge group of people. So it'll give us a lot more chance to kind of have a little bit more relaxed, flow. We won't have to make it feel so formal. So let's get to it. So we're going to cover custom workspaces, powerful favorites and shortcuts, converting sample types, batch processing, match loudness, which is a special type of batch processing, spectral view, how to get it set up correctly, how to use it, and what it's for, and then the auto heal tool, which you use in conjunction with spectral view a lot, and why it's such a magical feature. Getting into editing, how to set your current clipboard. So you might want to have more than one sample of audio available on your clipboard. What is that and how to do it. Using markers, effects, how you would generate a tone. Maybe you want to make a beep for, covering up a swear word. You can do that. Audio effects, plugins, manager, how the manager works for all the effects plugins, how you can remove things that you don't want to see and delete old plugin, things like that. Going more into effects, how some effects may still need to be have Adobe Audition running in Silicon mode. Apple Silicon mode is specifically going to not allow old plugins to run, but Rosetta mode will allow them to run. I'll get into that briefly for the Mac Silicon M1, M2 users. Effects, hard limiter, what normalizing is, most of you know, but we'll just cover it anyway. Tube modeled compressor, parametric equalizer, de-esser, FFT filter, which is a very specific type of EQ that I like to use for a high pass filter, dynamics processing in general, and the dynamics processing tool I tend to use, noise reduction, or also known as the restoration area of effects, stretching and adjusting pitch. Obviously not something you're going to do often, but time stretch, you might need to speed something up 5%. Show you how to do that. Build your first effects rack, what I typically use and why in my effects racks. Multi-track mode, we'll get an introduction. Take a look and see what it does, how it does it, and why it's so different from waveform mode. Then if time, and if there is the demand, we'll talk about working to picture. So loading a video in and then taking that video and adding your own voice to it. And then a good friend, George Washington III, he has his own e-learning workflow. He shared it with me. So I thought it's too much to cover. I'm just going to show the slide. It's going to show you the whole list. You'll be able to come back and read it later at your leisure. But I thought, why not add a bonus, because it was great information. All right, so let's get into it. So creating custom workspaces so you can see what you need and hide what you don't. So let's pop over here to Adobe Audition. So the workspace area is at the very top of the bar, way up here. And you'll see there's a few presets that are preloaded right here. A default, classic, edit audio to video. And then I have one that I must have called workshop in a previous webinar. And right to the right of that is a button these little, when you see a button with 3 horizontal lines like that, the jargon for this is called a hamburger menu. So if you hear me say, click the hamburger, that's what it is. It's the hamburger menu. And then to the right of that is an expanding menu, which has the 2 double arrows, which shows more presets that are available to you. So workspaces are just determining what you see on the screen at any one time, right? Because there's a tremendous amount of windows that you could be viewing in Adobe Audition, far more than you could probably fit on most monitors. Unless you're going to run Adobe Audition on a 4K display in a very small font, which would be hard to use, you're not going to want to see every single one of these different window panels at the same time. So workspaces let you kind of keep track of what you want to see, what you don't. And so what you'll find yourself doing is, once you have a layout that you use all the time, and the last one that I had created was called Workshop, it's going to remember that, and next time you load it, it will load the same thing. So let's say, for example, you want to see files over here. Maybe you want to also see the favorites tab. And you want down here, you want to have batch process, match loudness, and effects rack. You can have that down there. Now, if you want to move something around, like let's say favorites is something you don't need to ever see in the top box, but you still want to have it handy. So where could we put it? Well, there's another pane over here where amplitude statistics is laying. I could take this and literally drag it over here. And where it ends up being docked in that window, you see a light, orange light showing up, where if you let go, it will end up being placed. So if I let go here, it's now going to be another tab inside that box, favorites and amplitude statistics. And if I want to change the order of them, I just click and drag them and move them around. So this is how you can change your workspace. If you want to make any one section larger or smaller, you can put the mouse between the 2 segments and resize them by clicking and dragging like that. And I'm right now, I'm running my display at 900 pixels high, which is maybe similar to most people's laptops, but with most modern computers now, you can be running at much higher resolution and showing far more on the screen at the same time. I just found this a sweet spot for being able to show you the right amount of stuff at the same time without making the font and everything so small that it's hard to read. So that's how it's laid out. So once I figured out what I want my layout to have in it, I can save it by clicking the hamburger menu, click Save as New Workspace, and give it a name. Now, a little bit of an annoying thing about Adobe Audition, let's say I want to resave it over the name Workshop. Well, actually, they give you the option. You can click Save Changes to this workspace, and whatever changes you've made will now be saved to the preset called Workshop. In other areas of Adobe Audition, that is not an option. And if you want to save over something, you have to give it a new name, or actually give it the same name, and it will save over it. So that's a little bit of a quirk. You also have edit workspaces, so you can determine which workspaces are going to show up on the bar, that area at the top, and what's going to show up in the overflow menu, that little pop out 2 arrows. This lets you determine what shows up in those 2 areas. And if there's something you never ever use ever, let's say you're never going to work on video mixing, then you can drag it to Do Not Show, and it will hide it completely from the menu, thereby creating less clutter. Adobe Audition is based on a software from many years ago called Cool Edit. And because it's been around for such a long time and been developed and taken over and managed by so many teams, they've just layered on more and more useful features, and some more just sort of tweaky features that nobody uses. And this is kind of one of those things. So anyway, that's how you would customize, change your layout to be functional for your use case. So for me, I like to analyze audio a lot. So having amplitude statistics available and being able to click scan